Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to the Winning Drive, and welcome back here to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, pleased to be joined by a fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy C.J. Vogel, and our own coach, former high school football coach at Burnet, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there as well, and was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head football coaches. And now you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. He's also on the side, very talented songwriter too. Coach Bob Shipley, what's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you guys doing today?
Doing good. I know some of y'all out there heard a little bit, and CJ was one of those. There was a storm came through the Austin area, and it wasn't around for a long time, but it did a lot of damage. It was crazy. Golf ball size hail came through. There were people with shattered windows and trees that fell down, 70-something miles per hour winds. CJ, you were one of those people. We was actually recording something when the storm hit CJ, and then CJ, boom, lost power. How long were you out of power for?
Yeah, we filmed around 6:30 or so. I didn't have power until about 3 a.m. So wow. It hit us pretty hard. I know in comparison to some folks around our neighborhood, around the east side of the Austin area. I mean, we actually got it pretty lightly, but I mean, you look right down the road at Dishfalk Field, and I mean, they don't have a batter's eye anymore. So center field blew all the way down. So I know we were up at the Dish. Jeff Howe and I, we were over at the baseball stadium this morning listening to Schlossnagel. They were talking about building a brand new fence. Got to get it up before tomorrow at 1 p.m.
It's crazy.
We'll see if they're able to do it. But, yeah, it came in quick. It came out quick, but did some damage.
Man, yeah, that's right. CDC said nothing to worry about. They'll get it fixed. I saw pictures of them out there already, constructing things and getting everything stabilized. So Texas will get it done, but that was a wild storm. So hope everybody was safe, of course. Actually, shout out to our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. If you need to get some any roof inspection or any roof repairs, shout out to Hardgrove Roofing. We'll give them a shout out later on. All right, let's dive into it. By the way, you guys know how it works. You guys can throw out questions, comments, as many as you want to. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Just throw out a super chat. Got a few topics we'll throw out there. Pro Football Focus is ranking the best wide receiver rooms in all of college football. And the Longhorns are getting some love, but more importantly, the Longhorns upcoming opponent to start out the college football season, they are, as everybody anticipated, a juggernaut of a wide receiver room. So we'll talk about them too and do a little preview of Texas versus Ohio State. We're talking about those rankings. We'll also get into a few other topics on the show. We'll dive into some other football stuff, but also shout out to Texas softball with a big win today, with a big win over Florida. So shout out to the ladies who are once again moving on in the Women's College World Series with a 3-0. I believe it's a 3-0 win over Florida earlier today. So don't want to forget them. I want to also throw out there will be boom. Shout out to my man Matthew. He's always working hard. There you go. Boom. Best in the business. 3-0 win for softball. I don't know if you got any comments on it, CJ. I know you do keep up. Matter of fact, shout out to once again Leanne Good, who joined us yesterday on the live stream, actually. So we got to give a shout out to her because she was fantastic on the show. If you haven't checked out that interview, please, I would recommend you go back and check it out. She was amazing. But the women's softball team once again going back to the College World Series for the second year in a row. She talked about how this was a veteran group, CJ, that a lot of the ladies who, obviously were a part of this core that's making this run were a big part of their core last year that tried to make a run. So bigger things expected. She said it's a good vibe in the locker room right now for the ladies, and that 3-0 win is a testament to it.
Yeah, it was a good win. I always like to start off these College World Series with the win. Texas for the 7th straight time, actually on the diamond, able to do just that with the 3-0 win over Florida, and it was a great performance by Tegan Kavan in the circles. 2-hit shutout complete game. That's all you could ask for, right? You go above and beyond against the number 3 ranked team in the country. It's been a rocky last couple months for Tegan Kavan, but you see it there today. 2 hits, shutout, big time win, and shout out to Jolie Mitchell, 2 solo home runs. Texas lineup, it's been hot and cold, but it certainly helps when you get a pair of solo home runs. Texas actually went back-to-back at some point, I believe in the 5th inning. So, look, You got to keep your eyes on the rest of the bracket that's going on your side in the Women's College World Series. Right now, Texas will play the winner of Tennessee and Oklahoma on Saturday. That game just got into the fifth inning. Tennessee actually leads 3-1 currently. We know how talented Oklahoma is when it comes to softball. So always good to start out with the W. Mike White squad gets the dub. Now they get to move on with the ball in the court, really.
Yeah. No, so congrats to the ladies, obviously, but the mission far from over. All right, let's get to
I got a dumb question here.
No, ain't no dumb question. No such thing.
From a senior citizen. Is this one in this series, it's one loss and you're out?
No. So it's the final 8 teams in all of the country. You know, they're in Oklahoma City currently. You split it up into 4, and it's a round robin amongst the 4. It's double elimination. So Texas off to the winner's bracket. They'll play the winner of Tennessee, Oklahoma. Florida will go down to the loser's bracket. They'll play the loser of Tennessee, Oklahoma. The loser of that game is eliminated. And essentially the last one surviving from your 4 goes to the championship series, and in which it will turn into a best of 3 from the opposite side of the tournament.
I got you.
Yeah. Good breakdown there, CJ.
It's a great question because it gets
not a dumb question, Coach. Not a dumb question at all. I think you clarified a lot of things for a lot of us. All right. Thank you guys for your – yeah, I had the same question, Coach. See, exactly. They no such thing. All right. Matter of fact, I was just a random little nugget. We do interviews on Third Longhorn, and we got a chance to interview a couple of coaches. Like we interviewed Sean Miller. It was fantastic. Coach Miller was amazing. Interviewed Coach Schloss. That'll be coming out recently. That'll be coming out. I don't know when it's coming out, but it'll be coming out, pretty soon, I should say. But we did that recently, and man, they dropped so many nuggets. And I've done it with Coach Ship here too, with a few times that I'm like an actual student. You know what I mean? I started writing it. I got to write that down. That's a good coachism. I got to write that down. And I actually had to apologize to Coach. I was like, Coach, I'm sorry. I had to get in my notes on my phone and write down one of your little nuggets because it was just that good. Like I don't want to forget it. And I can tell you what it is. Coach Slosh. Matter of fact, I got the nugget right here. So he was talking about like one of his sayings and something they put on a t-shirt. And I don't know, CJ, you might have seen this. They have on the front of the shirt, win anyway. And I believe on the back of the shirt, win anyway. And the whole point of it is, Coach is like, no matter what happens, injury, the refs screwing us over, whatever happens in the game, right? One of our guys having a bad game, doesn't matter. Find a way to win anyway. Win anyway. Regardless of the excuse, regardless of what happens or the circumstance, win anyway. And the other one is win anyway. Doesn't matter how you do it. Just with defense, with offense, in the clutch, don't matter. Win anyway. Oh, blew my mind, Coach. I was like, okay.
There's a song in there somewhere.
There is a song in there. But I was like, I want one of them shirts, Coach. I want one of them shirts. So I don't know. Coach Sloss said he might drop off one of them shirts to me, but I thought that was great. I had to write it down. I was like, oh man, win anyway. I love how Coach come up with them. And you got a couple too, Coach, that you've dropped on me here that I've had to write down, but ain't nothing better than coaching us, man. You can take those and apply those to almost any walk of life. It's good stuff. All right. Anyway, let's get back to it. Oh, I think we got a super chat here, actually. Oh, boom. I go super chats. They always interrupt the show, and we are happy to do so. Here's Mike says, an off-topic question for Rod. In your college career, what road stadium was the toughest environment to play in and the easiest? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I was in Nebraska. It was Nebraska A&M. I know people don't want to hear it, but the Aggies, that was a tough place to play back in the day. I'm thinking still should be probably a tough place to play. Yeah. The Aggies. Nebraska was a tough spot. Nebraska fans are devoted fans. They're not like I never played at Arkansas or anything like that. Like the places that we played, because I was in Old Southwest Conference. I was at the beginning of the Big 12. So, and we didn't go to Arkansas. I'm trying to think of, honestly, Oklahoma State was actually kind of wild too, because Oklahoma State's really close to the field. It's really intimate. Like, I don't know how it's legal, but they have their stands like right, like you can hear them heckling you while you're making adjustments on the sideline. Coach, you've experienced that. Aren't those stands like really close to the
and they're hitting the pads on the side with the whole time. Yeah. And they're saying every racial slur, every kind of thing you can imagine, trying to get in your head.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a tough place to play. There's no doubt.
Yeah, that's coach just nailed it. They are. I forgot all about the little pads they have, but you can hear them. Like I remember being able to hear them loud and clear. Like you really had to like block it out. So for me, I would say those right there, but nothing's like, I mean, Texas OU is, it's not intimidating because it's 50-50. Your people are there, right? You got your people there with you. You brought your crew. So it's not that, but man, there's just nothing like that environment. It's just, it's so unique. So in terms of road environments are the most intimidating, most hostile, I'd probably go with the Aggies that I played in was the Aggies, Oklahoma State, Nebraska in there. But like I said, Texas OU ain't nothing. Most unique is definitely Texas OU. Ain't nothing like that.
Nebraska, they're kind of like rival gentlemen.
They were.
Describe it. They're not like Texas Tech and Oklahoma State and some of these that are just rabid and just want to like spit on you. They appreciate the game of football and they will cheer for their team till the bitter end. But when it's over or when you're coming to the stadium or when you're leaving the stadium, they're a gentleman's rival. They have, I don't know if I would call it class, but compared to a lot of places we go, they're classy because they just appreciate good football. That's my opinion.
I think that's right, Coach. I think you could say classy. I'd agree with you on that. From what I've heard from Longhorn fans who've gone up there, they were very appreciative of the hospitality of those fans. Say what you want. I mean, I know we don't like Aggies, but I've never really heard of Longhorns and Aggies getting in like fist fights. They just don't like each other.
Well, there was one year the guy playing Army man pulled out his sword and remember that?
Yeah. And I guess a good point. And I think I've heard of Brian Jones maybe getting into a fight with some Aggies, but I've heard about way more of those Texas OU weekend. Like it's just like there's a scrap or something about somebody about to scrap every damn Texas OU game. And Coach, you brought up one that I guess I got to give props to. I'd hate to do it, but I got to, Mike, because those damn Red Raiders, man, it's one of the few teams that beat us while I was there in our prime.
It's tough,
man.
Place.
Texas Tech at night, man. Lubbock at night. I slapped an Aggie last slapped an Aggie last year.
He had it coming.
He had it coming. They all got it coming. We gotta, let our take the high road with the Aggies.
What would the easiest be? Rice, probably the easiest.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, Rice was. I mean, we went to Kansas. Baylor back in the day was terrible. Baylor back in the day was a bad football program. Baylor back in the day, Kansas back in the day. Now those are competitive football programs. They weren't competitive at the early stage of the Big 12, Coach.
Yeah.
So going down to Waco, or going up to Lawrence, Kansas, man, we was whipping them teams. That was
I would say one of the determining factors on how difficult it is to play the place is how into the game the fans are. With the fans like it, when you go up to Cal and play there, those fans, they're pre-game, tailgating, they're drinking their wine, eating their crackers, they're not, it's just a social activity for them.
Yeah.
For Texas Tech, for West Virginia, for Iowa State, they're rabid. I mean, their teams may not always be that great, but the fans make it a fun atmosphere to play in.
I agree with that. Yeah, I'm glad Iowa State was all right when we played. Now Iowa State's got a football culture and everything. But I remember they had a couple of guys, Seneca Wallace, around that time we played. So that wasn't no easy win. But I got to give props to Texas Tech. It's playing out there at night. During the daytime, I think it's, just like going to Arkansas or anything like that. The daytime makes a huge difference. Man, but Texas Tech at night, whole different freak. They throwing tortillas on the field and stuff like that. It's wild.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited to see about this. Year 2 in the SEC, Texas going to the Swamp, going to Athens. That's going to be some big time games.
Yeah, man.
I'm eager to see what it looks like in Lexington, Kentucky. You go down to Starkville, Mississippi. You got to deal with the cowbells. That's not going to be too fun for the guys on the field. But I keep thinking about what the stands look like in Nashville last year against Vanderbilt. And for those that watched that game, for folks who made the trip, I mean, it looked like one of those. I called it a playoff high school game. Where you got one side all in. Was it the black and silver for Vanderbilt, and the other side was just completely burnt orange? Like, it was crazy. I'd never seen, Wayside in Nashville or that level of distance have that disparity in terms of a home color versus the away side. So Texas traveled well. I can't wait to see what it looks like elsewhere.
Do they want to go to Mississippi? Because Mississippi State tickets, they can get those. You can afford those, and that's not a crazy trip. That's not a long trip. You can, if you really want to do it, you could drive it. I mean, I wonder how many fans are going to make that one. Who wants to go to Mississippi? Yeah, Longhorn fans. Yeah, that's enough. I think Longhorn fans are probably going to save for the really big time sexy road trips the Longhorns have, and they got a few of those. Of course, you get Georgia, you got to Ohio State this season. All right, so we'll get back to some of the questions. Thank you for that super chat there, Mike. Let's thank our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing before we move on. Texas football fans, and some of you guys out there who are in the Austin area, unlike CJ, may have experienced that storm that came out of nowhere. It did a lot of damage. Unfortunately, it did damage to a lot of folks' houses. Some windows knocked out. Obviously, a lot of roof damage. Well, our friends at Hardgrove Roofing can help you with that. They have offices all over Louisiana, Arkansas, and of course Texas, including Austin, of course. But Hardgrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs. So if you have roof repair needs, or you need a new roof altogether, or you don't know what's going on up there, you just know that you heard a lot of golf ball size hail hitting your roof, and you probably assume something's wrong, then you need to reach out to our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. Call them today. They're offering a free roof inspection, 512-645-3202. And right now, everybody in the Austin area probably could use that. Or reach out to them at hardgroveroofing.com. Know who's on your roof with our friends at Hardgrove Roofing. Really appreciate their ongoing partnership with On Texas Football. And we've actually done several events with our friends at Hardgrove Roofing. I got a chance to meet those fine folks at Hardgrove Roofing. We know that they bring us Stevie Lee each and every Monday with their good folks, and I would trust them with my roof. You should trust them with yours as well. Thank you to hardgroveroofing.com.
By the way, did you see the post? This is Stevie Lee Day.
Oh, Stevie
Lee Day until the season opens.
I didn't even think about it. I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Yep. CB got it. Chris got it. CB.
Shout out to CB. Yep. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, my bad, Stevie. All right. You got to throw that out there. Greatest 93s. Is that what we look at? Can we look at the best 93s all time?
Yeah, T-Sweat.
T-Sweat. Yeah, it's hard to beat 93. I don't
know. There's not a kicker that was 93, was there?
Ooh.
Isn't that degrading for a kicker to wear a 90s number?
Honestly, that's a great. I can't even really think about the kickers' numbers that well. I feel like Tom Herman in that regard. I know Tom Herman.
That's a big jersey coach on a little body.
I don't even want to disrespect the kickers, but I can't think of most of their numbers. So I feel bad now.
Yeah, Steve, off the top of my head, Stevie's number one on that list.
Tavondre Sweat is, you're right, 93. Forgot about him. The Hero Canoe is 93 right now, right? The current 93.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think some others. Stoney Clark. Shout out to my man. CB does a great job with these. He puts the little montages together and on the countdown to kickoff. And he's got kind of a breakdown of the greats at wearing that number. And you forget about Stoney Clark. Got one of the, still to this day, one of the greatest plays in the history of Texas football. Goal line set. I can see it in my head right now. Replay it. I'm so familiar with it. And so you got iconic plays and you got an iconic player. I'm saying Shea Holly dad was 93. Oh, okay. There you go. I'm glad my man love the history, keeping up with the history here, because Bobby does a great job with it. I don't have the recollection that Bobby does. He usually can go back like that. I appreciate folks like CB being the historians here on the program. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, T-Sweat. Yeah, T-Sweat be hard to beat too.
T-Sweat is the greatest. There's no doubt. Who is Michael? How do you pronounce that? Michael Bodone? Badone? How do you pronounce that? I wonder. Doing it sounds longer. You ain't got to do that. I'm sure somebody in the chat will throw it out there. Will give me a phonetic spelling. All right, there you go. So shout out to my man CB and shout out to Stevie Lee, friend of the program, my former teammate, Stevie Lee days until kickoff. Man, 93 still seems like a long ways away, but we do have kickoff times for a few of the games. Probably about 5 or 6 of the games. Texas football actually threw this out there via their Twitter earlier, and now we do know, Matthew, if you wouldn't mind bringing it up, that we do have kickoff times, game times for a few of the games. See some of the early season games. Ohio State, that's going to be at 11 a.m. Eastern. We do know, and you see right there that San Jose State game, that's going to be an early kickoff as well. UTEP at 3:15 Central Standard Time, so that's going to be hot. That's going to be a hot game. I mean, that's going to be that's going to be one of them where they're going to have that ridiculous temperature on the field where it's going to be like, it's like some like 130, 140 degrees or something like that on the field.
Pull out the big thermometer.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah, 3:15, man. That's one that Sark says going to play everybody. UTEP, everybody going to play. That's just the way it is. Like, we're playing a ton of guys because it's going to be really hot. Sam Houston, you'll get that one prime time. Should be pretty cool. And then you get Oklahoma. We learned that earlier. That's going to be a 2:30 kickoff. And A&M, that's going to be prime time for the Longhorns. 6:30 versus the Aggies. That will be at home for the Longhorns. So there you go. Some kickoff times. Any thoughts, guys, on the kickoff times for some of these games? I saw a tweet from you earlier, CJ, talking about just the home games. Not a fan. Not a fan.
No, I think this. I mean, we talked about their time in the Big 12 and some of the home games that came as a result of conference foes. In the non-conference, for being in the SEC compared to this non-conference schedule. I mean, it's as bad as a schedule in terms of fun game environments, in terms of competent opponents. Yeah. You're looking at potentially just one team over 500 come the end of the season, in the Power Four, and that's A&M, if they get to that point at the end. Yeah. But it's less than desirable, right? You got UTSA, you got Sam Houston State, you got Sam Houston State at the stop or at the front. You're expecting those, right? Those are just get out to the stadium, have a good time, support the Horns. But you're really wanting some of those big-time, nitty-gritty games like you've seen at home in the past. And, well, you're not going to get many of those because, well, you only have 3. Vanderbilt, Arkansas, I would assume, is still taken highly by Texas fans. But,
oh, yeah.
For the younger generation, I don't care about Arkansas. Arkansas to me is Texas Tech. And I know that there's Southwestern ties there. Folks don't like Arkansas. I get it. They've never meant anything to me and folks in my generation, I would say. So, A&M, that's going to be the game that gets people riled up. But no real needle movers for me, and I think that's unfortunate. But, you got to trade that off at some point, and that's obviously what's to come with the current 8-team schedule in the SEC is you're always going to have one more home game than away game or vice versa, with that neutral site game against Oklahoma this year counting as a home game for the Longhorns. You don't get a true game at DKR as a result. So that's why CDC is down in Destin pushing for a 9-game SEC schedule. That way you can have 4 true home games, 4 true away games, plus the neutral site game. I want it for different reasons, but it's not a it's if it weren't for Arch Manning, I wouldn't be surprised to see, those season ticket numbers kind of dwindle a little bit, but I know it's not going to happen this year.
Yeah. Okay, I got a question. How many other SEC rivals play a neutral site game?
I think the only other one, Coach, now that Arkansas and Texas A&M are back to campuses, is going to be the big cocktail party. Yep, it's going to be Georgia and Florida. That's the only one, I believe. Yeah, and I think that's good. I think unless it's a significant rivalry or something that's been going on forever, I think these games should be on college campuses. Just having attended that A&M Arkansas game, it sucks, right? It's a bad environment. Put it back on a college campus. It loses its meaning. I think games in NFL stadiums suck for a college game. I think it's great that it's home and home. Keep it how it is for Georgia, Florida, those that means something to those fans. Keep it for Texas and Oklahoma, Army, Navy. That obviously means something, but I'm glad that they're moving back to college campuses is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's a great point. The only sexy element to the home schedule this year is you get your rivals to come in. Two of your rivals come in to DKR. Yeah. And in Arkansas, like you point out, you don't care about Arkansas, CJ, but the old school fans do. A lot of old school fans, and they love this, so it's nostalgia for them. And I guess I'm an old school fan too, because we were still kind of playing Arkansas in a lot of non-con situations back when I was still playing. We played them in a bowl game, actually, in the Cotton Bowl in my first year in Texas. So there was still more of that vitriol and hatred. You're right. In your generation, y'all don't really know much about it. And if A&M, that's the sexy new rivalry that has just been rekindled. So you get that, but I'm with you. I mean, you're not great. You get Arch. This year you're the sexy road show. Right? You go to Ohio State, you got to go to Florida. You go to Georgia. That's you got to go on the road. You're that road show this year instead of having those home games. I mean, so I'm with you. I think ultimately it's a good sign if you're still selling out and there's still demand for tickets and a waiting list and everything. And this is the home slate of games.
Yeah, no kidding. It shows sign of a healthy program, right? The buy-in is going to be there, especially now that you have 16 at quarterback. Look, I know I said I don't care about Arkansas. I care about Arkansas the same as I care about Texas Tech, right? I don't like them. You'd like to see them, Texas, take care of business, but it's been so long. I look at it like the Cowboys and their rivals in the NFL, right? The Niners are a rival of the Cowboys. For me, I mean, those games against San Francisco, they've never meant anything, right? Because look, they in my lifetime, they weren't playing each other in the conference championship for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. For folks older than me, that's all they know, right? Is those battles in the 90s, head-to-head, winner goes to the Super Bowl, you take over, as the NFC champion, perhaps win a Super Bowl. That's not really ever been the case. And over the last, since 2007, since Arkansas had McFadden and the boys, what was it? McFadden, I think they had Peyton Hillis right after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Felix Jones at the time as well.
Yeah.
Since then, I don't know if you could point to a 10-win Arkansas team. They've just been in the dumps, right? They've not been a great program. So that luster of the rivalry, it's faded. And I'm sure it did at times when Texas was like this to other teams. So I recognize the rivalry. It's just not one that, in my mind, is one at the very top when it comes to Oklahoma, Texas A&M, etc.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. All right, let's get back to some questions here. RW says, Rod, which DB will be the next to wear number 7? Doesn't look like Taft will be making the switch. Maybe someone else in 2026. The guy, I mean, if it's two guys, if what is the tradition of the 7? A guy we believe is going to win the Thorpe? Like, this is a brand new tradition. They just started this thing, right? It was Jahdae Barron wearing, Michael Huff's number because he thought he was worthy of wearing, winning the Thorpe, right? It's part of the Thorpe promotion and part of them campaigning for Jahdae Barron to win the Thorpe. So is that the tradition? Like, I need to know what the tradition is. I'm assuming that's the tradition. This guy is ready to be considered the best DB in the country. Boom, number 7. Is that the tradition, Coach? Did I get it right? Or
yeah, I would like to see it be a tradition. I would like to see us have that standard. It was for a while with number 60 at linebacker, Tommy Nobis.
Yeah.
That was kind of a big thing to wear number 60 as a linebacker. But then, it got to where, back then linebackers, they didn't give a crap what their number was. They didn't care if they were wearing a helmet. They just wanted to go kill somebody. and so that kind of went by the wayside to, some cooler cats, wearing numbers they thought were a little bit more stylish. But number 7 to me has a lot of significant meaning. Even in a lot of different ways. I would love for that to be somebody who is the cream of the crop, who is our legitimate candidate for the Thorpe every year. I don't know if it'll work that way, but I think that would be a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. So that's RW. I wish I knew who is number 7 on defense this year. Is there a number 7 on defense? We don't just so are we saying we just don't casually give it to anybody now? That you have to earn number 7? That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what has been established. I think somebody needs to ask, like, the Taft. Michael Taft is the leader of the secondary right now, right? Then we need to ask Michael Taft. What is the number 7 tradition? If it's what I'm assuming, it's assuming this guy's ready to win at Thorpe. Let's give him number 7. In that case, I don't think it's anybody this year. I don't know if you have a guy that's like you believe. Oh no, this guy's got ready to win at Thorpe. If you want to say that, then it ain't gonna be Michael Taft. Is it Malik Muhammad? Is he that guy? I don't want to just, you know what I mean? Does he want to be that guy? If I had my pick, it would be whenever Jonah Williams is ready to wear it after starting maybe 1 year and then the next year, whatever, or deciding, that he wants to focus on football, whatever it is. But I like him playing 2 sports because I think he's that good. Or Cade Phillips when he's ready, because I think he's one of those guys that projects to be that good. And
I don't think it's something that a player should take lightly.
No.
When you accept that jersey, it's like you're accepting the weight and everything that goes along with wearing that 7. The expectation of wearing that 7 should mean something. And if you're not ready for it, don't take it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be a GoDaddy to reach out.
Yeah.
That's kind of like guys that want number 1. I mean, that's like, okay. I mean, are you really – I mean, there's a little bit of subplot to wearing number 1 because you think you're the best. You're number 1, I would think. I don't know. Yeah. But I don't know. There may be a time where number 7 is not available anymore because it's hanging on the stadium.
Yeah. Look, that's what's made this conversation so interesting is I don't know if it's a tradition versus just someone calling their shot and it paying off, right?
That's true too. Yeah.
In that case, it's more of just a one-off situation in my eyes. I mean, look, Jade has that personal relationship with Michael Huff, said, I want to come back. I want to become a legendary Texas defensive back. If I want to do that, let me take all the mental notes and pride and preparation that it takes. And if that means moving to 7, hey, let me do it because of Michael Huff being in my ear and telling me what it takes every single day to be the best defensive back in the country.
Okay.
That's the case. That's great. Now, if other folks want to follow suit, go for it. But I know Michael Taft's not going to change his number because of the 16 and the significance that number means to him from his days at Westlake. I think Manny Muhammad, he was number 1 back at South Oak Cliff, now at number 5, year 3 and number 5. Do you really want to change and have your family go buy brand new jerseys? We'll see. I mean, I think that's one of those big things is players get connected to a certain number. Rod, you tell the story about how you wanted to be a different number. You get stuck with 21, and now all of a sudden that's the pride. And one of the more meaningful things for you is that number that you wore for every year that you were at Texas. And I think 7 could eventually become that for Texas like it is for LSU, but not if it's forced, right? So
I like it. No, CJ, I think you might be right. I like your take. Your take is the best take. I love that.
But how about this, though? Michael Huff is with those guys every day. How about like you can wear number 7 when Michael Huff deems you
get anointed?
Yes, anointed to wear that number.
No, it's because that's kind of, I agree that's kind of basically what, CJ's take is that basically Jade and Mike Huff are so close. Huff was like, oh yeah, you the next one. And Huff was like, if I'm the next one, give me that number 7. Let's make it official. And they had that kind of relationship. I like that take. That's a good take. Because that does make sense in it because he was around the program, that kind of thing. So I don't know who controls it. I'll try to ask. Next time I'm hanging out with John Bianca or hanging out with one of the players or something, I'm going to try to ask them. Hanging out with a DB. I might
ask Huff Daddy.
I'll ask Huff Daddy. Yeah, I'll ask
the source.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going what's up with it? This is tradition now, or did you and Jade, y'all was just that cool, and that was a you and Jade thing, and that ain't going to be a tradition going forward? I want to know. It's a good question.
For those wondering, the number 7 on roster right now, there's only one. It's on the opposite side of the ball. It's true freshman Khalid Clockett. So 7 is open on defense. If someone makes that switch before the season comes, it's open.
Is it open though, CJ? That's the question. Is it open? Or when you go in there and go, nah. I want number 7. Nah. That's all they say.
A little pat on the helmet and be like, maybe next year.
Yeah. We used to have Chip was our equipment guy. God bless Chip. Greg, you knew Chip, Coach Chip. Chip was, oh man, Chip would put you in your place quick. You couldn't even get like extra socks and wristbands and shit unless you were like a dude, unless you like starting games and contributing. You went up there like as somebody who was just contributing on special teams. Chip, man, Chip would do you dirty. Chip would do you dirty, man. He was great.
Hey, Chip was a guy. If you had an attitude, you could just mark any favors from Chip off the list. He came in with a big ego and attitude, like he owed you something. He was doing you a privilege by handing you some socks or something.
Oh, man.
No, Chip would give you the one with the holes in it, but if Chip deemed you as a respectful person who treated him and his staff with respect, he would take care of you. There is no doubt. But if you were a big dog and you thought you were better than everybody else, now Chip may give you a pair of U socks.
It took me a couple of years to get on Chip's good side. I finally got there, like the end of my sophomore year.
And I like that. I like that. You got to have somebody holding court down there, keeping these egos in check.
He would, man. I'm telling you, Sims, all these big egos, everybody came in there and they bowed their head and gave the respect to Chip, man. Chip Robertson, for those who don't know, is his name, but he was a long time. I don't know how long Chip was there. He was there forever.
He came in with the guy before Mac.
Makovic?
He came in with Makovic because Chip was the equipment manager at SMU for years.
Okay.
And then when Makovic came to Texas, Chip came with Makovic to Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't realize that. Yes, I know he was there. I know he was a made man by the time I got there. But now everybody has a story about Chip, man. Chip was a good dude, so God bless him. But yeah, hope whoever's down there who has the
Matt Rutherford is a man now, and Matt.
I know Matt. Matt
is he's a chip off the old block. If you don't mind me saying, Matt ain't putting up with anything.
Okay,
Matt,
right.
No, Matt not putting up with any of that stuff either.
Okay, I know.
Matt. He's my kind of guy.
Matt. I know his wife is fantastic too. I know Matt really well. Also, yeah, you're right.
He worked himself up as a student manager.
Yeah, he's been there now. That means he was assistant Chip back when I was there.
Yeah, that's right.
He's been there for at least 2.5 decades or more. So he's putting in the work. All right, good stuff there. All right, let's thank another sponsor before we move on. I want to talk about this Pro Football Focus ranking. Let's thank our friends over at Von Lane before we move on here. Von Lane, folks, is the best way to travel in between the major Texas cities. You got to get to Houston. You got to get to Austin, DFW. You got to get to San Antonio. And it's a bit of a toss-up, right? Do you deal with the airport chaos, the overpriced items in an airport, flights being delayed, or do you try to drive it yourself and brace for road rage and traffic and hours of lost productivity, burning an entire day on the road? The third option is a much better one, folks, and it's Von Lane. Better in every way. You arrive at a luxury hotel terminal, no TSA lines, no long-term parking lots, just a seamless boarding experience that takes minutes, not hours. You settle into a plush leather seat, a hot towel, pillow, and blanket are at arm's reach. Your attendant offers complimentary snacks, beverages, and on select trips, a full meal. If you need to relax, you can lean back and enjoy the ride. And if you want to stay productive, there's high-speed Wi-Fi and power at every seat. And while you're unplugging or powering through, the Von Lane team is monitoring traffic in real time using smarter routes and efficient detours to keep your trip smooth and on schedule. And now it's the perfect time to plan your fall travel. Booking is open through September, so whether you're headed to a college football game, like a lot of you will be, or a weekend getaway, or a business trip that needs to be done right, Von Lane makes the journey part of the reward. Von Lane serves Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and in the Southeast, Atlanta, Nashville, and Memphis as well. Visit vonlane.com. That's VONLANE.com, and use the code OTF25 to save $20 off your first ride with Von Lane. Von Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. Thank you very much to our friends at Von Lane for sponsoring the winning drive and being a part of the On Texas Football family. All right, let's get to this Pro Football Focus ranking. They're ranking the best, basically the best group groups and rooms in the country, the position rooms in the country. And they've done, I think, running backs, and now they're doing wide receivers. They're doing the best wide receiver rooms in the country. And I mean, we were just talking about the defensive backs and who's going to be worthy of wearing the number 7, who's going to be the next great DB at Texas. Well, whoever that next great DB at Texas is going to be, shout out to Michael Tapp. He's already an All-American. Malik Muhammad's a returning starter. So is Jalen Gilbo. Whoever it's going to be, they need to step up sooner rather than later, because they're going to have a hell of a task dealing with this juggernaut of a wide receiving room in Ohio State. Based on Pro Football Focus rankings, they are the number 1 wide receiving room in the country. And honestly, that I think anybody, if you surveyed, 100 college football experts, you'd probably get Ohio State as the number 1 wide receiving room by 99 out of 100 experts. And if you ask people who's wide receiver in terms of who produces the best wide receivers in the NFL, it'd probably be a debate between LSU and Ohio State. Somewhere around there. I mean, they've been doing this for a long time. The wide receiver coach, Brian Hartline, who's been known as one of the best, if not the best wide receiving coach in the country, he also is now the offensive coordinator. So he's not going to neglect this group. They're going to get a lot of attention in that first game versus Texas. What are your thoughts? Open up to you, CJ, first. You know a lot of these guys because they've recruited a lot of 5-stars who just get a little bit of mention here at the bottom. But that's how deep that room is. They've been stockpiling 5-star athletes for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I mean, you see that second paragraph right there. Jeremiah Smith isn't just the best receiver in college football. He's the best player in college football. I kind of believe that. I mean, I think he's unbelievable for what we saw last year as a true freshman, already in a stacked room, right? He was a guy that stepped foot into that wide receiver room, and their number 2, who was going to be their number 1, Emeka Egbuka, well, he's only the leading receiver in Ohio State history. He gets drafted in the first round, and everybody was like, whoa. He's dwarfed by that of the true freshman. So I think Jeremiah Smith absolutely is in that conversation. The other thing I wanted to mention, and look out for this video this weekend. Me, Rod, and Jeff had a great conversation about this Texas-Ohio State game, and I mentioned it there, but they're starting 3 wide receivers in that starting 11. Jeremiah Smith, the number 1 overall player in 2024, number 1 wide receiver. Carnell Tate, the number 22 player in 2023, number 3 wide receiver. Brandon Ennis, same 2023 class, number 35 overall player, number 5 wide receiver. All of them fringe 5-stars, 2 of them true legit 5-stars. You add Max Clare to that bunch, and it's going to be the best wide receiving pass-catching duo, trio, quartet, if you will, that Texas will face the entire season, and I think it's the best in the country. So Texas will have its hands full. If there's one thing that gives me some peace about Texas going up against this group is, well, we just saw what it looked like schematically from a defensive standpoint in January.
Yeah.
And if you remember, Jeremiah Smith only had 3 yards, and that was on a pass completed behind the line of scrimmage, in which that was the only time he touched the ball. They tried to get him the rock. Texas had a great game plan. Obviously, they had the Thorpe Award winner in a second-round safety that, kind of moved around with them at times.
Mm-hmm.
But that game plan is going to maintain this year with Pete Kwiatkowski. And look, on the flip side, Brian Hartline, he's calling plays and not Chip Kelly. So maybe there's more of an emphasis to get Jeremiah Smith the rock, but Texas already with the blueprint and that ground floor plan to make sure that Smith isn't the one that beats you.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. That was a great game plan. I mean, you don't have Andrew McCouba, you don't have Jadae Barron help you execute it. You do have a lot of good pieces. I see Jelani McDonald being talked about here in the chat. You got Michael Taff, an All-American. You got Malik Muhammad. You got Jalen Gilbo. You got some pieces that at least remember that game plan and what it was, essentially help defenders who are helping you take away Jeremiah Smith. There's always eyes on him, multiple eyes on Jeremiah Smith everywhere he was going. And I thought it was, I don't know if there was a better game plan against Jeremiah Smith by any team all season long. So, Coach, they do know exactly, how to take away a guy like Jeremiah Smith because you've seen them do it. When you're going up against a wide receiving core, you know a lot about wide receiver. When you're going up against a wide receiving core this good, to me, pressure is almost more important than coverage because you can't, this. You can only cover guys for so long. Guys who are that good gonna get open. I'm a DB. I'm telling you that. You a coach, you know that. They gonna get open. These guys, they're just too damn good. they're going to have to get to the quarterback early and often to try to disrupt any timing to these fantastic wide receivers. Oh, Coach, I think you're muted.
I think the good thing for us, if there is a silver lining here, it's that it's Hartline's first game as the offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. So he, in the first game of the season, he doesn't, coupled with the fact that Texas has an incredible defensive staff, which just got better with Dwayne Akina. So he has no idea how Texas is going to try to defend them. It's not like Texas is coming off, a game or two before then, and he can really see what Texas, is going to bring in terms of personnel and coverages and stuff like that. So the fact that they undoubtedly have the best receiver room in the country and the best receiver in the country, I think it gives me hope. It gives us an advantage because we can throw stuff at them. We have all summer to work on this. We've had all spring to work on it. They've studied Brian Hartline up, down, sideways, everywhere there is. And, I think that as good as they are, we have an advantage defensively, I think, just because we can show them things that they haven't seen. And how well Brian Hartline makes adjustments as an offensive coordinator, that especially against a defensive staff like Texas, that remains to be seen. Yeah. It's unseen at this point. So I wouldn't, if it would have been the fourth game of the year, you'd probably kind of shown your hand, and people know what your bread and butter is and what you're going to try to do. But first rattle out of the box, man, it's just like you don't know when you don't have any idea what Texas is going to show that first game and how they're going to take that passing game away from Ohio State.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you about that because we've heard Sark talk about that last year, going to Tuscaloosa, going to Michigan, right? That second week, it felt like, there were little hints and, they didn't come out and plain say it, but, they dropped hints that we'd been preparing for this game all summer long. Is there stuff in that first game that you just don't showcase, obviously, going with a bigger matchup in week 2, but also how does that, how is there an advantage starting right off the bat versus, all right, we got to open against a Sam Houston or someone and then roll into that week 2 massive matchup? Is there one way or the other that you'd prefer the schedule shakeup for Texas, having seen it both ways?
Yeah, I would say Ohio State first game of the year would be the advantage. And if it's a second game of the year and you're playing Sam Houston or something else, everybody knows we're going to be plain Jane. We're not showing anything at all. Yeah. We are going to, it doesn't matter how much we win by, we're going to win the game. You just play base. You don't show them anything. But I just feel like, if you get them first right out of the box, that is a huge advantage to me. Because even though they might not see things schematically from a softer opening game, they're still going to be able to judge your receivers and your DBs and their tendencies, where their eyes are, maybe who's not tracking the ball well and that kind of stuff. That's why I feel like it's the best situation is to go in there blind first game, and I think it gives you a huge advantage. Since if Chip Kelly was still there, it might be a different story. Yeah. But with the new offensive coordinator there, it's going to be, to me, it makes it a very, very interesting matchup. One of the most intriguing matchups of the year.
No, I can't wait. Because I think for Texas, the best thing for the DBs is you won't face a better wide receiving core. We'll go through some of these other wide receiving cores and where they're ranked. You'll face other highly respected, highly thought of wide receiving rooms in the country, but this is a juggernaut. Like this will be an all-time great room actually when it's all said and done. So at least you'll get tested. Your metal, that metal will be tested early as a defensive backfield. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out, I said ran into Rodby this morning with my kid. Nice to meet you. Yeah, man. Shout out to Jordan and to you, Maverick, as well. Great to meet you guys, man. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Means a lot. That was fun. Hopefully I'll see you there again. I liked it. It was my first time there. Actually went to a place in that Daisy took my little girls, like a gymnasium, like literally a gym for gymnastics, and met Jordan and his little boy Maverick. So had a good time. I think we'll be going back. So hopefully I'll see you there again, Jordan. All right, getting back to the list here. The other teams that the Longhorns will see on this list, there are a couple others that are actually ranked as well. You see Clemson, they saw Clemson, and we know how talented that wide receiving room is. They brought all those guys back from last season. That's one of the best in the country. But they have Georgia on here ranked as 6th. I'm a little surprised by that. One of the things I said about Georgia that I think they were lacking, at least toward the end of this dynastic run they're on. I'm assuming they're toward the end of it because I'm assuming Texas is about to go on a dynastic run. But they don't have the explosive athletes at the skill positions on offense. They didn't have those guys last year, I should say. I think that has probably been an emphasis for them to try to get some of that explosive potential back at the skill positions. And transfer portal is how they did it. USC's Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas from A&M. So I think that was the emphasis for them, Coach, because that was, their defense is still Kirby Smart's defense. As Longhorn fans know, that defense can go. And he's been stockpiling 5 stars and blue chips for the last 4-5 years. So he's got dudes and dogs on defense, literally. Offensively, though, remember, they went through, Todd Monken came in. He really juiced the offense up. He's now with Baltimore as their offensive coordinator. And I don't think they've found that same juice and explosivity since Todd Monken left. And maybe it's the play calling, maybe it's the personnel. I think it's more the personnel. And I think that's what they're trying to get back to, more explosive plays. So they got the dogs up here as one of the best wide receiving groups you're going to see. That's one of the things I think Georgia's missing, Coach, in my opinion, from being the old Georgia that was winning championships a couple of years ago, in my opinion. Says, Oscar Dell. Sorry, go ahead, CJ.
I mean, Georgia's wide receiving group last year was one of the worst I've seen from a Power 4 contending team in quite a long time. They had the most dropped yardage of any team in the country and the most dropped passes of any team in the country. It's only right that the New York Jets end up with one of their biggest contributors to that stat, Arian Smith. But, that Texas game, as close as it was, it shouldn't have been that close, given the drops, given the passes that were in good positions to be completed, and they were just utterly dropped. So Zachariah Smith, very dynamic athlete, didn't put up a lot of production at USC. Noah Thomas, on the contrary, big-time body, did put up big numbers at Texas A&M, more so in the red zone, big-time 6'5", 6'6" body. So we'll see. The one thing that Georgia has now is the big-time wide receivers. Do they have the quarterback to back that up? Is Gunnar Stockton going to be that guy that can go on, the Georgia runs of recent? That'll be interesting. You don't have to do a whole lot. Keep your team in the hunt. Rely on your defense. Don't turn the ball over like Carson Beck did last year. You're going to win a lot of football games, but will he transcend? We'll see.
This is a receiving course. They are including tight ends in this. I should have thrown that out there earlier. So they include Oscar Delp in their receiving core. He's a really good player. And next on the list, at least that is relevant to our audience, the Longhorns are listed at number 8 on this list. The Longhorns, obviously, with Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore returning as the top 2 wide receivers, but bringing in Jack Indries, one of the top-ranked tight ends in the country out of Cal. Longhorns with a top 10 receiving core. By the end of the season, Coach, it'll be ranked higher just because that's Sark's offense. He maximizes and he knows how to really weaponize wide receivers. I mean, we've seen that through the guys getting drafted into the NFL.
There's no doubt. This is not a team that should be ranked higher, a room that should be ranked higher than 8th, in my opinion, at this point. There's just so much unproven as a group, as a room. But I agree with you. As this season progresses, and if Arch progresses as we think he will, and the offensive line gels as we hope they will, then Texas will move up on this list in terms of being one of the better receiver tight end rooms in the country.
Yeah, it's also going to be interesting what you get out of the true freshman bunch, right? Because we talk about 5 stars, we talk about instant contributors. Well, Texas is bringing a pretty hefty group of true freshman wide receivers: Michael Terry, Khalil Lockett, Jamie French, Daniel McCutcheon. They got a lot of good run in the spring, obviously with the injuries to Moore and Wingo, but what does their contribution levels look like? We've talked about it with Jeremiah Smith last year. Emmett Mosley mentioned last year, or in this article, 8 contested catches, only trailed that of Jeremiah Smith. So Texas, it's thin but talented at the wide receiver spot. And of course, Parker Livingstone, the great white hope, as they call him, white lightning.
Yeah.
What does he contribute to this group? I think is going to be a big test. So this might be the floor for Texas, but I'm with you, Coach. Until we see it on the field, until we see it in action, I don't know how you can put them a lot higher, given that a lot of this is just hope versus what we've seen previously.
Yeah. It's the Arch Manning factor. Arch Manning factor for me is, why. And even if it was Quinn, I still think it would end up by the end of the season ranked higher because Sark, his offense, it really does a great job of being able to. It's going to the ball, as Sark says, will find some wide receivers naturally in his offense, and then he schemes up the basically the targets for the other guys. If the ball doesn't, remember last year the ball wasn't naturally finding DeAndre Moore. Like he was barely even targeted in the early part of the season, and then Sark started. All right, you know what? I'm gonna scheme up my guy some targets. I'll scheme it up for him, and so he does that often. And then I think. And Matthew Golden, the ball always found him. But I think there are other guys where Sark will make sure that he finds a way to scheme those guys up and open. And he does a really good job of it. And Jack Injuries is going to be I think he'll be a perfect complement to what Sark does too.
Okay, CJ, I got a question for you. Who out of our group of freshmen coming in has the best chance to be our Jeremiah Smith?
Oh, that's a great question.
Jeremiah Smith.
I think early on, and what we've heard out of the spring is Jamie French maybe has the highest ceiling of the bunch. I think Khalil Lockett has the best body for it. He's got 11-inch hands, Coach. Anything that, it's like one of those things that those fly catchers that you just drop down from the ceiling and the fly touches it and it just can't go anywhere. His hands are kind of like that with the ball. So once he learns and kind of develops that route tree, because he wasn't asked to do a whole lot at Saxe, right? A lot of goes, a lot of stops. There's obviously more to the college wide receiving route tree at this level. So once he kind of gets on top of the routes, the concepts, alignment, etc., he's going to have a great college career in my eyes. Underneath though, and maybe not Jeremiah Smith-esque, but the one that I think blew everybody away was Dalen McCutcheon. He was running with the first team unit alongside that of Parker Livingstone. You didn't have a lot of returning bodies, but he was out there with them. So I'm eager to see what he can do. Obviously, with that backup to DeAndre Moore, you're likely going to see McCutcheon pretty early and pretty often for the Longhorns this fall.
All right, good stuff there. The other, I think the other team that's ranked here on this list that will be relevant to our audience are the Aggies. The Longhorns will face the Aggies, obviously, to end the season. You got the Aggies at number 9. Number 9 best receiving core. Yeah, I gotta say this one surprised me a little bit. The Georgia one surprised me a little bit how high they were. The A&M one surprised me too. CJ, I know you do a lot of college football research in the preseason, just on a lot of the Texas opponents, but also the teams in the conference. They did make a lot of upgrades, especially with Kevin Concepcion, but I didn't expect them to crack the top 10. It's good news for the Aggies if they got this kind of explosive potential on the outside.
Yeah, it's funny because I've always discounted A&M wide receivers. I've just always kind of had that thought. Since Cam Newton, Auburn's been a school that doesn't matter who they throw out at quarterback. It just won't matter, right? Mm-hmm. A&M's like that with wide receiver. You don't care about anybody at Iowa when it comes to their offensive players except for offensive linemen, tight ends. This is very much kind of that thing that's embedded in my head for Texas A&M is their wide receivers just won't live up to their potential. And we've seen that long line of really, really talented wide receivers, starting with Evan Stewart. You look at Chris Marshall, another 5-star, Jalen Preston out of Manville, who had one of the historic state championship performances, goes to A&M. You don't hear about him. A&M only has 1 wide receiver drafted since 2019. I feel like that's a pretty wild stat for a school of that caliber, right? Texas has had 5 in the last 2 or 3 years. So That's always something I keep in mind with this. But this room has talent, right? Casey Concepcion coming out of NC State, really talented, really quick, really dynamic. Terry Bussey returns. And then the other one is Mario Craver, who Texas saw firsthand at Mississippi State last year. They didn't have a great passing offense until the second half of the season. He still put up some big numbers. But the one thing, I mean, if they're relying on Amari Niblack, how much of a ceiling does that give them? Because I think Texas would sit back much like I am right now and say, oh, you want to start him? Go ahead. Because we know what that ceiling and what that production can look like with Niblack. You know, if that's what you want to trot out there, go right on ahead, I think is what many of the SEC teams are saying. But we'll see, because who would have thought that you had a Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, and we're expected to have a Micah Hudson in the fold too. Obviously, he's back at Texas Tech. Little snip, snap there. But that would have really been a really good-looking wide receiving room. No longer the case. Still talented, but we'll see, because until I see it with A&M, I'm just forced to believe it's not going to live up to the expectation.
And lastly, does Colin Klein, as the offensive coordinator, is he the type of guy that can help these guys really go to the next level?
Good point.
In that offense. I don't know that he is. I don't know that that his mindset, play calling, is suited for these guys to have breakout years.
Or the quarterback.
Yeah.
Is Marcel Reed that sophisticated enough passer to be able to take advantage of the full complement of weapons? Yeah, that's a lot of question marks there. And you're right, CJ. There's just they have not established a pipeline at wide receiver, a successful pipeline either to the NFL or a culture of really productive wide receivers. Sark has basically established that on his own. Whether you go back to his time at Bama and now here at Texas, he's like, if you're a wide receiver in Sark's offense, pipeline to the NFL and a lot of productivity, uber productive. And that's kind of the reputation you want as a offensive play caller. And you're right. I don't know if Colin Klein has that yet as a play caller. All right.
So real quick to Cisco Diaz's comment, how does Colin Klein use the tight end? Well, at Kansas State, if you remember, Ben Sinnott was actually a really talented guy. Yeah. What was he, about 6'4"? He was kind of one of those fullback flex H's. You know, they use them really interestingly in that offense at Kansas State. But honorable mention Big 12 player. He was an honorable mention All-American in 2023, first team Big 12 in 2023 as well. So big-time player. He's in the NFL obviously now, but if you have the talent at tight end, we've seen it in the past. Colin Klein will utilize that. I just don't think Amari Niblack's close to that of a Ben Sinnott.
We had high expectations for Amari Niblack here at Texas prior to the season. And then I think, Sark realized that he was kind of a liability as a blocker. And then he couldn't find a way to put him on the field without being predictable. I put him out there. Everybody knows
penalties.
Yeah, that was so true. Good point. The penalties too. But you put him out there, then everybody knows, well, he ain't blocking. I know he's going out for a route. He ain't blocking. And that's why I think he really liked Juan Davis, because Juan Davis was a plus blocker. He wasn't necessarily a plus receiver, but he was a plus blocker. And Gunnar Helm was a good all-around tight end for you. All right. Thank you, Matthew, for that. A couple other topics and questions. Before we do that, let's thank another sponsor before we end today's show. Our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs. You can give it a try there. Of course, Flat Creek not only producing some of the best premium wines on the market, but it's also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. We really appreciate Flat Creek Estate Winery and their ongoing support of Owen Texas football. And make sure you get out there. As weather gets nice, you can go out there and enjoy wine tastings, and you can enjoy all of the great ambiance there at Flat Creek Estate Winery. actually took a tour myself, and it was great. Actually, as soon as wife and I get a babysitter, I'm going to make it out to Flat Creek State Winery again. And no matter how special the occasion, we actually had a member of the Owen Texas football family get engaged out there. So no matter how special the occasion, they can accommodate any request you have. That's flatcreekestate.com. Frank wants to know, what will Ohio State's O-line look like? I wouldn't do a little bit. I mean, obviously these are projections because none of this has been announced officially. They brought in a transfer from Rice at tackle, Ethan, and I'm sure I'm going to screw his name up, Onienwa. Yep. I apologize if I mess it up. CJ probably knows it better than me. He was actually projected even at Rice to be an NFL draft pick, like a middle round draft pick. And so the belief is that if he goes to Ohio State, he could actually up his stock to being an early round draft pick. So he's an NFL guy. He's expected to be left tackle. Their center, this is a guy that can play guard and center for him. Actually was a starting center in 2023 for him. Carson Hinsman is, I believe, projected to be a starting center, if I'm not mistaken. Luke Montgomery is projected to be one of the guards. He was a starter by year's end because of all the injuries they had on the offensive line there. Austin Seraveld, excuse me. I'm sorry, I mispronounced Seraveld. Austin Seraveld. He is actually projected to be another starter for them. There's some saying he's projected to be a starter at tackle, but he played guard and played some tackle. So some people are saying that, I've seen some reports he's projected to be a starting tackle for them. Some others said he could be a guard. There's also Tegra Shabola. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. He is projected to be a starting guard for them. So they're trying to get their best five on the field. They do a lot of cross training with their guys as well. But those are the five names I've heard. And even Ryan Day, in one of his media availabilities, he said Austin Seraveld was one of their best five. And so a lot of people assume that he's definitely going to be a starter. So like I said, those are the five names I've heard mentioned the most with the starting group, but that could all change. Still training camp left.
Yeah, I think Texas and Ohio State are in similar spots where a lot go off to the NFL, but they still feel good about what they have coming up at the next level because of development, because of the recruiting at the level that they're doing. So, it might be a new offensive line, but Texas is in that same boat. And I think Texas fans feel pretty good about the guys that they're going to trot out for the season opener. So it's going to be a big test for both offensive lines. And Rod, to your point, Ohio State, unlike Texas, went out and added some key pieces out of the portal. Yep. That kid from Rice, Onianwa, really talented football player. So we'll see what that looks like. All I know is Colin Simmons gave Josh Fryer all that he could handle the back end of that Cotton Bowl. I would imagine whoever's playing right guard or right tackle to start the year is going to look at the tape and say, "Oh boy,"
No, they're gonna give him some help, man. Coach, you got to give him some help, right? You got to chip that dude, Colin Simmons, now, right? He's not gonna get one-on-ones. Oh, sorry, Coach. I think you're muted again.
I don't think they will at first, but I think that they will definitely have Plan B.
Man.
There's no way you can go into that game because you think Colin Simmons has been sitting around doing nothing since last year's Ohio State. No, the dude is a dog. I mean, he's working his tail off. He's going to be at another level than when they played him last season.
Didn't CJ during the spring, I believe it was you, maybe someone else, talking about how he may have changed up his stance a little bit and that he could actually have a faster BGO ball get off this upcoming season than last season?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because that was Alan Clark and his doings.
Okay.
We've talked about Alan Clark trained, coached 70-plus NFL guys as a personal trainer. He knows what gets guys quicker get-offs, what's more efficient, if you will, with the stance. Colin Simmons mentioned that. He said, obviously, he wanted to break the Texas all-time sack record. We'll see if that happens. But if there's a way for Colin Simmons to get an even faster BGO,
that's insane.
Maybe. I mean,
that's the fact. But he thinks it's faster. But to Coach, he's getting better. That would be freaky. I think he has the best BGO in the country already. Now you're talking about getting even faster. That's some Von Miller type freaky stuff going on, man. He's twitchy. All right. Couple other things before we end today's program. I know we're getting close to ending things. Guys, I wanted to ask you about this, and I sent this. The Longhorns will have 3 players on the Lot Impact Trophy watch list. Speaking of Colin Simmons on his freaky BGO, he's one of these guys on the. And by the way, the Lot Impact is given to basically the nation's best defensive player. I believe is kind of how I summarize it. Of course, Anthony Hill, who is considered to be the best linebacker in the country by a lot of folks. Colin Simmons is considered to be the best edge defender by a lot of folks. And then Michael Taft at safety, the All-American. 3 players on the Lot Impact Trophy Award watch list. Oh, man. What are you guys' thoughts about which one of these guys has the best chance to win a national award next year? They're going to be listed on a few of these. Who has the best chance to bring home some hardware next season? Who's going to get
it? Well, first, it's good to see a watch list release because that means we're getting closer to the season, you know? Anthony Hill's my choice. He should have been in the conversation last year. I think he was snubbed a little bit from the Buckets, but as a senior, we kind of saw it last year. They favor those older kind of career resume awards. It kind of felt like last year when you consider some of the guys in contention. But Anthony Hill, I would only imagine, will be put in prime position to be making a lot of plays again this year.
Yeah. Coach, who's your thought? Who's going to bring home hardware? You going to
I agree. I would say Colin Simmons, but the way that they're trying to utilize the versatility of Anthony Hill defensively could make him the odds-on favorite to win that because, it's tough enough to defend him when you know where he's going to be. But when you don't know where he's going to be, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster for offenses. And so I got to agree with CJ. I'm going to go with Anthony Hill Jr. on that because he's just going to be he'll be all over the field. You don't know where he's going to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I like that, by the way. I want him all over the field. And I want him to have at least 100 pass rush snaps, which, by the way, he has not had at least 100 pass rush snaps in the season. He'd be a beast if he did. Probably would get to double-digit sacks. All right, last item, guys, before we get out of here. Max Chadwick, he does great work analyzing college football for Pro Football Focus. And he was answering a question. I sent this to Matthew. I thought it was cool. He was asking a question from a fan who asked him, if you were to draft a team with every active college football player, who would your first 3 picks be? His answer? Arch Manning, Jeremiah Smith, and Colin Simmons.
Wow.
That was his answer. If he would draft, his first 3 picks would be. Gentlemen, we get to see it. Game 1. Game 1 of the season, potentially the 3 best.
Yeah, buckle up.
The 3 best players in college football is potentially what his opinion is kind of saying here. That you may be watching that. So
that's a fun question.
It is
That's why I think we talk about the draft rounds and stuff like that. 2023 or 2027, excuse me. It's very well. I don't want to say very. It's likely. It's possible that this is pick 1, pick 2, pick 3. In some form or fashion or order for that entire draft is these 3 players. I don't think I've ever been able to predict the outcome of a draft 2 years down the road, but it feels like that's kind of the thoughts with Arch, Jeremiah Smith, Colin Simmons. Obviously, you got to stay healthy for 2 more years to do just that, but I don't know. Maybe Caleb Downs, who Texas will also get to see in that game week 1 against Ohio State, he might be in the conversation.
Yeah, he is.
But that's a fun question.
Yeah. You got some other guys like Dylan Stewart that'll, he'll be tossed around there because he's a really good player. But you're right. But that 2027 draft is shaping up to be an epic, all-time great draft. In terms of wide receivers, quarterbacks, and edges, all those premium positions we always talk about. All right, let's thank our final sponsor of today's program. Well, before we get done, let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge. That's right, folks. You can score big today and score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including the all-new 2025 Jeep Wrangler. Get the real deal today and drive away in the Jeep Wrangler, a vehicle built for adventure. Plus, you get employee incentive pricing. That's right. You pay what the employees pay right now at South Point Dodge. That's the real deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Go see them off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go online at southpointdodge.com. You can visit them there as well. Remember, the employee incentive pricing, you won't get a better deal than that over at South Point Dodge, whether you need a new car, used car, truck, or car, or trade-in, whatever. Austin's automotive everything is southpointdodge.com. We really appreciate them and their ongoing support of Orange Texas football. And don't forget about the employee incentive pricing, their fancy way of saying you get the employee discount at southpointdodge.com. All right. Thank you very much to Matthew, all of his great
Real quick, Rod, before we get out of here.
Throw it out there.
Women's College World Series update. Oklahoma just walked off Tennessee 4-3 in the bottom of the seventh. A little 3-run home run action. That team just pretty darn good. They know how to win up there in Norman. So Texas will face Oklahoma in the winner's bracket of their side of the tournament. That will be Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Tennessee will go on to face Florida. Loser there, they're going to Cancun. So we'll see on Friday which team survives, who advances, but Texas, Oklahoma. We've seen this battle plenty of times throughout the years, especially here in Oklahoma City. They're facing off 2:30 p.m. Saturday afternoon.
All right. Good update there, CJ. Appreciate it. That's why we appreciate CJ and all of his hard work and expertise. Coach, thank you for the wisdom and the levity. Once again, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes, the real MVP. Thank you to all of our sponsors as well. We really appreciate Flat Creek, flatcreekestate.com. We appreciate Von Lane, vonlane.com. Use that code OTF25 for $20 off your first ride with Von Lane. We appreciate South Point Dodge, our friends over at South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com, and all of their ongoing support of Orange Texas football, and our friends at Hardgrove Roofing. Remember, you had all those hailstorms and that crazy storm come through Austin. If you're in need of a roof inspection, roof repairs, or any roofing needs at all, a brand new roof, reach out to hardgroveroofing.com. Really appreciate their support as well. Thank you, Cisco. Thank you to all you guys out there for your participation and the super chats. If we missed any of your questions, we apologize about that. Please direct them to the guys at Coffin Football bright and early tomorrow morning at 8:15. That'll be Jerry and Bobby, and I'll be doing the live stream, our Friday live stream at 1 p.m. Tomorrow as well. So you can throw those questions in my direction as well. Thank you guys for all of your support, and for Coach, and for Matthew, and for CJ. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.